Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it's Michael here, and today I'm taking you through our latest Skyrim build, the Reaper. A build involving the Grim Reaper or something like that has been asked about a lot recently, so we've listened and created this build, the Reaper. I'll tell you now that the Reaper build, while being very dark and necromantic, doesn't actually use any magic at all. You're a dangerous orc who will be raising the dead, but not through arcane talent. This build is actually a full-on pure warrior tank born under the sign of the Ritual Stone. His aim is to become as powerful as possible and lead a life of blood and slaughter. Looking at the mods for the Reaper, we've got the Disparity Mod, which is going to change the way race powers and birth sign effects work, as well as adding a class system. This build will be an orc and therefore has Berserker Rage. However, this Berserker Rage power is now an effect that automatically activates every time you enter combat and lasts 20 seconds. It makes you do 20% more melee damage, take 20% less physical damage, and resist 10% of hostile magic. The Disparity Mod also makes you able to choose your birth sign at the start of the game via the mod menu instead of having to go to standing stones, and it also changes the powers of these signs. The Reaper uses the Ritual Stone, which allows you to raise all the undead around you, but you can do it unlimited times per day. The catch here is that it works like a type of blood magic. The ritual power costs 100 points of health per body resurrected, so this build is going to have a lot of health and also pick up as many health potions as he can find. The Disparity Mod also allows you to pick a class via the mod menu, which is a totally new feature in the game. We recommend you make a custom class and dump 20 skill points into all the skills we're using. These are smithing, enchanting, two-handed, and heavy armor. With attributes, your specialization is going to be combat, your primary attribute is going to be health, and your secondary attribute is going to be speed. This will overall create a faster and sturdier character. We're also using the Ordinator Overhaul, which gives you all new perk trees with great abilities to invest in. For enchanting, you're going to want all the perks that are relevant to creating more powerful enchanted items, and similarly for smithing, just get the perks that improve smithing capabilities overall, and those that are needed to craft and improve your armor and weapon. Looking at heavy armor, you're going to want all the perks except Nosebreaker and Iron Fist. And most importantly, you're going to get the Face of Death perk, which means you no longer have to wear a helmet to benefit from the perks that require you to wear all heavy armor. You're also going to have an awesome perk combination of Menace, Rise Above, and Primal Fear, and this will make enemies within 30 feet in front of you deal 10% less attack damage, and you will gain 10% extra attack damage for every enemy affected by Menace, which is this perk involving enemies 30 feet in front of you. And finally, if you walk but don't run in the direction of enemies affected by Menace, there's a chance to break their confidence, causing them to flee for 5 seconds. Lastly, looking at the two-handed tree, you'll want to be getting every perk except for those in the Warhammer and Greatsword trees. Looking at the gear for the Reaper, we've got the Warchief Heavy Grips, Warchief Heavy Bulwark, and the Warchief Heavy Stompers. These are all from immersive armors and fit in with the orcish theme of the build and his past life. You'll also want the Daedric Halberd from the immersive weapons mod, which counts as a battle axe with perks, and this is of course your grand instrument of death. Finally, the Reaper will use the Bonehawk Amulet and Ring, and these will all be enchanted. A perk link for a non-Ordinator character can be found in the description, so you can get them for a non-modded Reaper build. I'd also like to mention that the enchantments you have should all be Fortify Health as much as possible, and also resist magic. In conjunction with your enchanting perks, an enchanting elixir, and also using flawless gems while enchanting, your enchantments will reach full power. Born under the ritual sign, the Reaper was brought up within Morrowind in the city of Blacklight by a once orcish tribe. The tribe had now ended up as a mercenary company working for House Redoran, providing security against difficulties like bandits and thieves. He was part of this shift and became a mercenary with the rest of his family. However, he was always a bit more violent than the rest of them. As time went by and the Dunmer became more comfortable due to protection, they stopped appreciating the orcs' work. Locals and groups of the guard became annoyed with the orcs, as they not only believed they were barbaric, but because of their xenophobic perspective, they considered the Orzma filth on their territory. Eventually, a group of high-ranking Redaran Guard who disagreed with the Blacklight government's decision to hire the Orc mercenaries gathered together and decided to remove the Orcs from existence. The well-trained guards burnt down the Orcish living quarters during the night. It was a purge of the Orzma, and the House Redaran officials couldn't really stop the guards because they needed them for city protection. Our build was caught up in all of this, and as the guards attacked the Orcs who were escaping the building, the Reaper joined the fight and began slicing up the guards. His fury gave him strength, and his lust for violence made him want victory even more. He loved blood, and even seeing his own Orc comrades fall around him, he was unshaken. The stars of the ritual sign shone bright in the sky that night, and something awoke within the Reaper. After fighting competently, he suddenly fell to his knees and started coughing up blood profusely. Two Redaran guards who had just been killed arose from the dead as mindless zombies and started to fight the last remaining Dunmer. All the Orcs had been killed except the Reaper, and feeling incredibly damaged, he fled from the city and into the wild. After recovering, he began to practice his power in the wild surrounding Blacklight and started to attack groups of Redaran guards and resurrecting them to fight each other as he finished them off. Through this practice, he became known by locals as the Reaper, and his killings were always excessively violent. He is obsessed with slaughter, and the adrenaline he produces from creating death fuels his bloodlust. Eventually, however, House Redaran sends other mercenaries out for the Reaper's head, and also sends guards in such force that he is forced to flee. He heads to Skyrim, and upon arriving, he will still be obsessed with terror, blood, and his main goal will be becoming so strong he can reanimate more and more people to create more and more death. Looking at his playstyle, the Reaper is all about building an empire of blood and ashes. You will want to resurrect the undead as much as possible and use them as an army to fight against your enemies. This process will allow you to become stronger as you level up through killing more enemies, and as a result you get more health. The more death and the more enemies you kill, the more bloodshed you can cause later. While using this ritual power, you will want to target the strongest of enemies to get the best reward for the amount of health you're using. Beware of small creatures nearby like dead skeevers or chickens, because they too will drain 100 points of health if you accidentally resurrect them. You can essentially commit suicide by accident so that a chicken can come back to life. By targeting only the strongest enemies, you ensure your health doesn't go to waste. Remember that when you're extremely strong, you will have plenty of health, not to mention the 194 extra points we have from enchantments. For a stat spread, we're actually going with 0% stamina, 0% magicka, and 100% health. This really accentuates the tank theme of the build and of course fits a powerful combat focused character. The build of course sacrifices health to awake the undead with the power of the ritual sign, and therefore having a lot of health is really helpful. Remember that because it costs 100 health points to cast per target raised, you will have to be very careful at the start of the game and carry lots of healing potions until you are a high enough level and sturdy enough to lose hundreds of points of health carefree. You won't need any magicka, as I said, as the ritual power and your health do all the resurrection for you, and you won't need to power attack heaps often because your army of undead will do a lot of damage for you. Standard attacks and power attacks every now and then are the best for this build. Of course, if you're just fighting weak enemies, train your two-handed yourself and kill them without the use of the ritual power. And that wraps up this week's Skyrim build, the Reaper. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe if you want more Skyrim videos and also a massive amount of Fallout 4 content when the game is released. Like this video if you enjoyed the idea of blood magic we used in this build, and do share it with your friends who still play Skyrim or should get back into it. I look forward to nerding out with all of you again soon, and until then, have an awesome week.